I just want to say a few words introducing this last part of the course, which I'm calling "Living with the Dead," which is obviously the theme here is grief. And of course, this is a different aspect of death. The first two units really explored what I would call two different theories of death. The first one, basically taking its cue from Epicurus, and that is the idea that the theory that death is the end. Death is the absolute, permanent end of the human being. It is the end or limit of life, and that upon death we literally become nothing. Um, the second unit, something that cannot die, took a different approach and started with certain assumptions about what the human being is, and certain, let's call it, assumptions about reality in the case of really all of these texts about non-being and being, and the impossibility of being becoming non-being, and applied that to death. So I wanted to give you what I consider to be both sides of that, or two sides of opposite opinions really about that question about the nature of death. Um, Now this third section is obviously about something very different. We have three texts which all, in one way or another, have to do with the experience of grief, which is, of course, not really about death at all in the same sense, at least, as the first two units. We're not talking about what happens when we die, if anything. We're talking about the experience of being left behind. We're talking about the experience of someone else dying and its impact on us. So I've given you three, really two texts and a film, which all explore the notion of grief in different ways. We have one sort of strictly philosophical text by Donald Gustafson, simply entitled "Grief," which is an attempt, and it's worth getting all the way through it. I mean, it is a rather long reading, which is very detailed and technical. I wouldn't say technical, I mean, but he is focused on one question and one question only, and that is, what is grief, and how is grief different from other emotions? There are certain key questions there, which I explore in the videos and the assessments, that I think you need to understand or see what his answers are in order to understand what he's getting at. But he's really just trying to define grief in a philosophically detached way. The other two texts, meaning the film and C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed, are of course much different and much more personal. They're really examples of someone going through grief. One fictional, in the case of our character Nina in this film, Truly, Madly, Deeply, where some interesting things happen that it can only happen in movies, I would imagine, and but it does sort of tell a certain story or explore certain ideas about how we do or don't deal with death of loved ones. The other text, which may be the best thing that I've assigned in the course, in a way I have no doubt it's the best thing that I've assigned in the course, and that is C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed, which is really just a journal that the author C.S. Lewis kept in the time right after his wife died. One thing you'll notice is that there are no videos to accompany that text. There don't need to be. There doesn't need to be a video for Truly, Madly, Deeply either. I just sort of threw that in there. This text is immediately accessible to anyone. There's no problem in problems of interpretation or putting things in context. No need for me to step in and give you my opinion. I mean, the text, again, is immediately accessible. The important thing is just to read it. It's not that long, but it certainly is quite a bit to do in the last week of the course. I understand that, but it is, after all, an accelerated course. So yeah, that is our theme here as we